Hey everybody, it's Uncle Howie, and we're here for Uncle Howie's podcast. And I am so excited to have you here listening on Spotify or watching this on YouTube. Do me a favor and hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and share this with any young man you know that may need a little bit of wisdom or guidance. This isn't for everyone, but who we are looking for are the people who sort of know they're in a place where they want some help, some advice, some wisdom from somebody a little older than them that might help them make some good decisions. And we kind of specialize in goal setting and accountability. Those are the two major arenas of our constant discussion here on the Uncle Howie podcast. And so I want to welcome you. I want to say thank you for watching or listening. And, I really don't care if we ever have a gigantic audience, but I bet you that you know someone else who is a man that would benefit from hearing regular, once or twice a week, coaching conversation about how to be a better man. And that is sort of our goal. And all of us are on a journey heading one direction or another. We're either on that broad way that leads to destruction, or we're very intentionally and consciously on a narrow path that leads to what they call abundant life. And that's sort of my wish for you. My gift to you, because this is free if you're watching this or listening to it, is the time that I spend helping you think about and trying to achieve and receive that promise of abundant life. And so, if you want a regular, boring or an unfulfilled life, if you don't have any plans or intentions of bettering yourself, becoming a better man, then this is not for you. You're going to waste 25 minutes here. But if those are your goals, if you want to be a better man and really know what it means to live a life of service to other people, if you want your life to count, if you want to leave a legacy, if you want people to remember you well after you pass away, then you have to make the effort to better yourself. And it doesn't really matter how good or bad you are today. If you're sitting in a prison cell or county jail lockup today, when you get out, if you decide you're going to live to serve other people, you can be extremely useful in your family, in your community, and even in your nation. And it just depends on whether or not you want to be a better man. And I have met men who could care less. And so if that's you, this is probably a waste of your time. But, for 25, 30 minutes a week, if you tune in, I promise to do everything I can to help you make good decisions, set goals, and learn how to use mentoring and accountability for your benefit and for the benefit of the other people around you. And so, let me make a little adjustment here to my camera. There you go. And I have a couple things I just want to read for you guys. So if it looks like I'm reading on the video, it's because I'm reading. It says, oh, okay, I wrote this part. If you begin the process of bettering yourself, I will feel proud of you. And if I compliment your accomplishments, it's good for you to hear, Uncle Howie's approval. You want to hear the approval of people you respect and admire. But if we compliment ourselves, it's bragging. And bragging leads to destruction. And so I want to give you 5 examples of pride that have helped me define it. In ancient Hebrew literature, pride typically refers to an excessive and unhealthy self regard, often characterized by arrogance, conceit, and a tendency to elevate oneself above others and God. It's viewed as a major sin, often considered the root of other sins, and it is the opposite of humility. So, as we discuss what it means to mitigate and limit your pride, to train yourself to have less pride, what you'll be replacing that pride with is humility. And I know that a lot of men are taught by bad examples and bad actors that being humble never pays off, that being humble is not good. But I'm here to tell you that the humble man generally wins the conflict. And the reason for that is because the humble man understands his own weaknesses. And I'll give you an example in my own life. There are parts of business that I understand pretty well. I have a degree in business, and I've started some companies, and I've been an executive at a couple of companies, and I ran a giant citywide branch of a bank. And so I understand a lot about different aspects of business. But there are some aspects of business that I am terrible at. And so if I'm prideful, I just ignore those things where I have weaknesses and I just try to do my best. But if I'm humble, if I replace that pride of self-sufficiency, if I replace that tendency we have to think too highly of ourselves or our skills or our luck or tradition or family pedigree or whatever it is that makes us puffed up with pride, if we're working through that, the way I would replace my business pride with business humility is I would look for and recruit and hire people who are good at the parts of business that I am terrible at. The first time I made a lot of money, I was blessed with this amazing job at a life insurance company. And unlike most life insurance companies, we didn't have to drive around the county meeting with people face to face. We had this employee who worked for our company. Her name was Shilpa. She was brilliant, amazing woman. I miss her. If you know Shilpa Patel in San Diego, please tell her to watch this video because I can't compliment her skills and ability enough. What that woman did, her and her team, was she literally made our telephones ring all day long with people who wanted our products. And so I was able to answer the phone at my desk and sell people term life insurance, pretty cheap product. And my phone seemed to never stop ringing. There was a little electric meter, a board up on the wall over each corner of the office, and you could see how many people were on the phone with a customer or a potential customer versus how many phone calls were made that were lost. They didn't stay on hold until an agent picked up the call. And I mean, Shilpa lost a lot of calls because the agents, I mean, it was hard to go to the bathroom. She was so good at her job that, the phone just seemed to ring constantly. And if you got a break or when you had to unplug and, go to the bathroom or go grab a bite to eat, it was painful because you knew you might miss two or three great phone calls where you could, make some money for your family or some money for your, real estate investments or whatever you're into. And so to say that we were all grateful to Shilpa Patel would be an understatement. And in the years since I worked there, that I have, started a couple of companies, and I'm actually in the process of starting a new company right now here in Asia. Uh, Man, I wish I knew how to get in touch with Shilpa because I'm still not very good at that part of business. It is a skill set, even though I could watch her and interview her and ask her 1,000 questions about how she was getting it done. I just knew I did not have what it took to do that end of the business. And so, for me to succeed in business, I know that I need someone who's really good at reaching into people's psyche and giving them a desire to at least have a conversation about what it is we do for sales or the products we have or the services we offer. And so if you want to be a better man, you have to learn to replace your pride with humility. So definition number two: excessive self-esteem. Pride involves an overblown sense of self-importance and a belief in one's abilities or achievements without acknowledging any superior. And so, I knew guys in the army and I knew guys in business, and I've been on some staffs with some ministries, and I've known lots of men who, it just seemed like, they didn't have a boss. Like, even though someone else may be writing their paycheck every week, they acted like they were beholden to no one. And, they didn't care about the schedule and they didn't care about the procedure or the policy. And many of these prideful junkies didn't even care about agreements that they had signed. I can't tell you how many men I've known who've literally read an agreement, signed it, and then later started to break it on a regular basis. And when confronted, you could just smell the ugly pride in the room, how they were just above everyone else. And so they had this sort of painful, contentious personality where, they didn't know where they needed help and they felt like they had no superior and they just didn't want any accountability. And so, we talk about setting goals every week. And part of being able to achieve our goals is asking for accountability. Accountability is the key to our success if we want to be better men. Number three, prideful individuals often characterized by disdain for others and a lack of humility. Disdain for others. I would say this comes across like being a snob. Someone who's snobbish, they look down on other people. Maybe it's because of racial reasons. Maybe it's because of gender reasons. Maybe it's because of the family they're from or the privileges they've had before. But it's so interesting to me that the learner, the guy who I call the lifelong learner, the guy that keeps on reading and listening to podcasts and looking for the answers to be a better person, that's the person who I want to work with, and that's the person I want to invest my time in. I've had some men ask me in the past to mentor them, and after 2 or 3 meetings I had to quit because I'm not a quitter. I like to finish everything I start. But if I gave you some homework to do, let's say I wanted you to memorize a short poem, and you came to the next meeting and you hadn't done the work, and I said, okay, well, maybe next week. And on the second meeting, you said, hey, I'm just not gonna memorize that. Well, you know what? There's not gonna be a third meeting. I don't want to have to wrestle you to the ground to get you to read a book or an article or to memorize a verse or memorize a poem. If I give you a little assignment, there's a reason behind it. And if I have to explain everything to you, it's kind of like when I was a sergeant and I had a private in my battalion, and I would say, hey, I need you to go over to the motor pool and bring me some X, Y, and Z. If he said, oh, yeah, okay, but why? And that guy would be doing push-ups until my chest hurt. I don't want to explain the reason behind everything before you commit. And so if we have a relationship where I'm going to invest my time and my money and my time, I could be drinking coffee with my wife. If I'm drinking coffee with you, young man, and I give you a little bit of homework to do, if you don't want to do it, then you don't want the results. But what you're struggling with is pride. And so, listen, I've got 2 men in my life, a guy named James and a guy named Austin. And it is unlikely that either of those men would ever tell me to do something or ask me to do something, and I would say no. Um, the way I work is, out of a behavioral humility. By nature, I'm not a humble person. I have incredibly high self-esteem, and by God's grace, I've actually learned how to have a decent self-worth recently. Um, but what I do to practice humility is that when I have someone who is in fact my superior, a boss or a mentor in my life, and that's James is my boss, and Austin is one of the greatest mentors I've ever had. And if either of those guys who I am accountable to ask me to do something or tell me to do something, my tendency is to say yes. And then as I am being submissive, as I am acting in humility, even if I think there's a better way to get this done, I will start down the path of submission and humility. And then I might say, hey, can I offer a suggestion on how we can do this a better way? And if they say, yeah, great, let's collaborate, great. But if they say, no, I actually just kind of want you to do it the old school way, then I don't mind, skipping the shortcut and going the long way, because deep down inside, what's more important to me than the task, the getting it done, is the relationship. And listen, every relationship I have isn't equally important. If my wife needs something and you need something, my wife is gonna get what she needs way before you do, because I'm basically it's God and then family, and then I have other priorities after that. And so if you're in my life and you're someone I care about, if you're one of the nephews here and I do care about you, then yeah, I might help you out. I might spend some time on the phone or on a Zoom call with you, but it's valuable. And so, don't waste our time by making me, if I say, hey, I'm going to send you an article, why don't you read that? And then next time we get together, we'll discuss it. If you're not able to discuss it because you read it while you were drinking, or you didn't read it very well, you skimmed over it, look, you're not worth the time that I'm taking away from higher priority people. And that's just the way it is. So when you're humble and when you fight that inner pride, and I have to fight it all the time, it can really pay off, especially in relationships. All right. Definition number 4. uh, Great literature frequently portrays pride as a form of rebellion, not only against earthly authority, but also against God, as it leads a person to putting themselves before God and others and attributing glory to themselves rather than their superiors. And so, if you work at a tire shop and you make a great sale one day, you sell some guy 5 brand new tires, and you mount them up and balance them, and your shop makes a lot of money, and hopefully you get a little bonus or whatever. um, it's a good idea to say to your boss, hey man, I know I made a good sale today, but I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity. I mean, you're not selling your own inventory, right? You don't own the tire shop. So being grateful and acknowledging your superiors is a really important aspect of success. And it's a good way to combat pride. Then the last story that we're going to deal with today is the story of Adam and Eve. And think about it. Adam and Eve, first man and first woman in the Garden of Eden, and they were tempted to eat from what God called the tree of knowledge. And it promised to make them like God. This is another example of pride leading to disobedience and the curse for each following generation. So my last point, sort of for humility and against pride, is that when you operate in pride and when you forgo or ignore your ability to behave in a humble way, to lower your tone, to lower your posture, to lower your head, to speak in a way where you actually become the servant of other people. When you forfeit that for pride, it actually has an impact on your children and their children. Our prideful decisions hurt other people, some of whom are not even born yet. So let me just encourage you this week when you're setting your goals and you're asking that mentor for accountability. And if you haven't heard me talk about that, go back and watch a couple of the earlier podcasts, and you'll get some information that hopefully helps you make some good decisions in the future. But if you want to be a better man, what I want you to work on this week is making some decisions. Make a declaration that you are going to work on your pride and work on your humility. You're going to try to squash the pride and behave and think of yourself and speak in a more humble way. And when you begin this pattern, it will change your life and you will be a better man. And honestly, who doesn't want to be a better man? I know I do. And I hope that we can work together for many, many years to come.